It was 12:07 a.m. when someone started knocking on my front door. Not a polite knock. Not a quick tap from a delivery driver who got the wrong address. This was urgent. Desperate. The kind of knock that makes your heart race before your mind can even catch up. I froze on my couch, staring at the door, my thoughts running wild. I wasn't expecting anyone. And I definitely wasn't expecting what I saw when I opened it. Standing under my porch light was my boss. His eyes were red. His hair was messy. And his voice, the same confident voice that ran our entire office, was shaking. "Can I stay tonight?" he asked. "I have nowhere else to go." Before we get into this unforgettable story, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment below to let us know where you're watching from. Welcome to Your Channel Name, where we share real stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be. I had worked at the company for almost 3 years. My boss, Daniel Harper, was the kind of man everyone respected and, if I'm being honest, slightly feared. He wore sharp suits, drove a black BMW, and ran meetings like a military commander. He wasn't cruel. Just distant. Professional. Untouchable. We weren't friends. We weren't even close. So when I opened the door that night and saw him standing there in jeans and a wrinkled hoodie, looking smaller than I had ever seen him, I didn't know what to think. Of course, I heard myself say, even though my brain hadn't caught up yet. "Come in." He stepped inside slowly, like he wasn't sure he deserved to. I noticed he was holding a small duffel bag. That was it. No fancy watch. No laptop. Just a worn-out bag and a face that looked like it had aged 10 years in one night. I handed him a glass of water and told him to sit down. For a few seconds, we just sat there in silence. My tiny apartment suddenly felt even smaller. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. I didn't know who else to call. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Daniel Harper had hundreds of contacts in his phone. Business partners. Clients. Friends from expensive golf clubs. But at midnight, he was at my door. He explained that earlier that evening, he had found out his wife had been seeing someone else. Not only that, but she had decided to leave him and take their 2 kids to stay with her sister in another state. The house they lived in? It was in her name. Her family had helped them buy it years ago. After the fight, she told him to pack a bag and leave. "I thought if I drove around for a while, I'd figure something out," he said, staring at the floor. But I didn't. I didn't know what to say. This was the same man who once calmly negotiated a $1 million contract without blinking. And now he looked completely lost. "I can take the couch," he added quickly. "I won't be any trouble. Just for tonight. I'll get a hotel tomorrow." I nodded. "You can stay as long as you need." He looked up at me, surprised. "Really? Really?" I gave him a blanket and a pillow. My apartment wasn't much. 1 bedroom, creaky floors, a kitchen that barely fit 2 people. But that night, it felt like the most important place in the world. Around 2 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I walked out to get some water and saw him sitting on the couch, staring at his phone. He quickly wiped his eyes when he noticed me. "You don't have to pretend," I said gently. He gave a small, broken laugh. "I'm not used to being the one who doesn't have answers." We talked for hours. Not about work. Not about deadlines or quarterly goals. We talked about fear. About failure. About how he grew up in a small town in Ohio with parents who worked 2 jobs each. About how he promised himself he would build a perfect life one day. "I thought if I provided enough, if I worked hard enough, everything would stay together," he said. I told him about my own struggles. About losing my dad when I was 16. About watching my mom work double shifts at a diner just to keep our house. About how sometimes strength isn't about control, but about allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Something shifted that night. The next morning, I made pancakes. He insisted on helping, even though he clearly didn't know what he was doing. At one point, he burned a batch so badly we both started laughing. Real laughter. The kind that clears the air. For the first time, he wasn't my boss. He was just Daniel. He ended up staying not just one night, but 5. During the day, he went to work like nothing had happened. Suit. Tie. Confident stride. No one would have guessed he was sleeping on his employee's couch. But at night, we talked. Sometimes we watched old movies. Sometimes we just sat in silence. On the 4th night, he said something I'll never forget. I've spent years building a company. But I never really built relationships. I thought success would protect me from everything. I shook my head. Success doesn't replace connection. He nodded slowly. You showed me that. When he finally found a short-term rental and moved out, I thought things would go back to normal. I expected distance again. Professional walls. Maybe even awkwardness. But that's not what happened. A week later, he called me into his office. I sat down, nervous. Had I crossed a line? Was this going to be uncomfortable? Instead, he closed the door and said, I've been thinking a lot these past few days. About leadership. About the kind of company I want to run. He told me he realized he had created a culture of fear instead of support. That he wanted to change that. He wanted people to feel seen and valued, not just productive. And it started with you, he said. You didn't have to open that door. But you did. A few months later, the company introduced new policies. Flexible schedules. Mental health days. Regular team lunches where work talk was banned. He even started checking in with employees one-on-one, not about projects, but about life. The office atmosphere transformed. People smiled more. Collaborated more. Stayed longer. And one Friday afternoon, during a team meeting, he surprised everyone. I want to recognize someone, he said. Not for hitting targets. Not for increasing profits. But for showing me what real leadership looks like. He looked at me. My face turned red as he shared, without too many details, how someone in this room had shown him kindness when he needed it most. After the meeting, coworkers came up to me, confused but curious. I didn't explain much. I just smiled. Because the truth is, I didn't open that door expecting anything in return. I opened it because someone was hurting. A year later, Daniel's life looked different. He had worked through the divorce. He rebuilt his relationship with his kids. He downsized his lifestyle and, surprisingly, seemed happier. One evening, he invited the whole team to a small barbecue at his new place. Nothing fancy. Paper plates. Homemade burgers. Laughter filling the backyard. As the sun set, he pulled me aside. You know, he said, that night could have broken me. But instead, it rebuilt me. I thought about that for a long time. Kindness doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's just opening a door. Offering a couch. Listening at 2 a.m. when someone feels like their world is falling apart. We never know what someone is carrying behind their polished image. The confident boss. The smiling coworker. The neighbor who waves every morning. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who need help the most. That midnight knock changed both of us. It reminded me that titles don't matter as much as humanity. That leadership starts with compassion. That success means nothing if you're alone. And most importantly, it taught me that kindness is powerful in ways we can't always see right away. So the next time someone knocks on your door, maybe not literally, but emotionally, Pause before you decide. Open it. Offer what you can. You might think you're just giving someone a place to stay for the night. But you could be giving them the strength to rebuild their entire life. And in the process, you might just change your own. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still exists. Because in a world that often feels divided and distant, sometimes all it takes is one open door to bring us back to what really matters. Kindness is never wasted. It always finds its way back. And sometimes, it shows up at midnight.